Hi, hope you're having an amazing day wherever you are. Today again, quite a lot of interesting crypto news, so let's just dive into it very quickly. Crypto specialist economist reviews trick for governments to kill Bitcoin. So how will government kill Bitcoin? So this is by the very famous author of the Bitcoin Standard book, Saifedean Ammous, right? He appeared on podcast by Stephen Livera, and he talks about what are the possibilities that he see that Bitcoin will be killed, right? Basically, he thinks that the more the government want to kill Bitcoin directly, a very obvious way is that they have a legal ban, right? Make it illegal. That means if you buy Bitcoin, you'll be jailed, right? That kind of scenario will basically make it worse. That means if in the case that when people so want Bitcoin and then they will risk going to jail just to get a hand of Bitcoin, that means, right, then Bitcoin is really valued in those instances, and that will basically be like hyperinflation, for example, or very corrupt government case, right? Now, he said basically then if that kind of very direct, very open kind of attack on Bitcoin will actually have an opposite effect, something called Streisand effect. What is Streisand effect? Streisand effect is named after the American star Barbara Streisand, where basically if you have a situation or have a phenomenon where you're trying to stop something, you're trying to censor, trying to hide, uncover something, right? The more that it has the opposite effect of actually making it to public, just because, right, it's always have the opposite effect, like especially now with the wide use of internet, of social media. The more you repress something, the more that it actually, it will actually have a knock-on opposite effect, that you want. And that's basically what he thinks. Now, then he also offer a very interesting solution to say that if government really want to attack Bitcoin, that the best way is actually to come up with a great alternative, right, that make it so not incentivized for people to use Bitcoin, then they will win the war. So very interesting insights, right, from Saifedean Ammous. Yeah, let's just move on. Nasdaq adding index for XRP cryptocurrency to global data service. What it is that Nasdaq is adding the third liquid index. Index is basically just a price discovery. And Nasdaq being such a global recognizable name when it comes to tracking of prices, when it comes to trading of tech stocks, right? Them adding any coins, that means they really recognize, right, the existence and the value of that cryptocurrency. They have added two before this, which is Bitcoin and Ethereum, and now that they are adding XRP effective from today, May 1st, yeah. And so what is important is that they partner with Brave New Coin Services, a New Zealand-based company, to actually give it a single, right, and very liquid price that everyone will recognize. This is especially good for like institutional players, right, because they really recognize something like Nasdaq. For them to adopt a new player like CoinMarketCap, not so much, right? It's only more so for the retail investors, but when it comes to institutions and those people with big money, they really need a name like Nasdaq, right? And that gives it so much more credibility. And now that they are adding XRP speaks volumes, because at that time already there was a video previously I've done that, basically XRP, will it be added or not? If it's added, then basically the risk that it will be considered as securities will be actually lower, because then now this is also traded, right, and it being recognized as such an important and major coin, right, by Nasdaq. That's why they're listing the price for it, right? Why else will they do that? Yeah. And they are, for now, their methods, right, the methodology of index is independently audited against the International Organization of Securities Commission's principles. So very credible source of how they're adding this index, right? And their source of prices is actually they source from the global world's most transparent and most accurate exchanges, including Bitfinex, Bitstamp, Poloniex, Kraken. And they're going to add Coinbase in the next review. Normally they add exchanges quarterly because they will review their methodology and review who they want to add. Interestingly, Binance is not added in, but I think two possibilities, right? I mean, I tried to look at, is the Binance volume not enough, which I thought is not true. Binance is such a big exchange, cannot be, the volume is not high enough, so it's not that. So I think it's because that Binance is especially their fiat to crypto exchange, they are not available in US, right? And I think that plays a big part. And after all, remember, Nasdaq is US centric. Binance doesn't even have an office, right, in US, and I think that is part of the main reasons why Binance is not added now, but perhaps it will be in the future. But still, regardless, XRP is being the prices is listed on Nasdaq. It's a huge thing for XRP, just giving it much more credence now. Yeah. Next, English Football Club inks deal with blockchain platform Socials.com. So what is significant about this news is West Ham United is the first UK Premier League club to actually join the blockchain or a crypto partnership, right? And what they are doing is that Socials.com is a token that actually make it easy, very facilitating the engagement of sports fans, right, via a mobile way. And again, what is huge is that this club, the West Ham United, has 40 million supporters worldwide, and their fan base, right, have more than 5 million, and that's digital fan base, right? So what they can do with this is that the fans will be able to engage, have a say in the club matters through mobile app, voting and polling, right? And using the fan token that will be listed on the Socials.com platform, right? And also the token owner will be granted access to exclusive fan rewards, merchandise, games, leaderboards, content, and experiences. So it's a win-win situation both for the club and also their player, the fan base, right? And again, the huge supporter base of 40 million supporters worldwide, right, speaks again, just makes the awareness of crypto even more widespread, right? So this is very good news. And remember, this is not the first Premier League club that is actually interested. West Ham is the first one to actually does a concrete action, but Liverpool is another very big names, and they have actually extended invitation to Binance, Tron, and Kraken. What they want to do is actually they want to understand the technology a bit more, right? And I think this ultimately is that they want to see how they can use that technology and crypto to engage their fan base better, right? To basically increase their revenue even more, yeah? So they can definitely take an example from West Ham United here. Next, millennials are the driving force of Bitcoin ownership according to a recent survey that polled 2,000 American adults, right, conducted by Harris Poll on behalf of Blockchain Capital, just done very recently, April 23rd to 25th. So very interesting across many categories, right? And have compared the data largely between two periods. Fall of 2017, which is when the start of the rally of Bitcoin, right, and then led to the whole crypto rally, and now spring of 2019, which is we have more than 1 year long winter. They just want to see how does the result compare despite the prices actually going very negative. How has awareness, right, perception, ownership, and future propensity to purchase, how has that all changed, right? Is it correlated to price or not? But basically they found that it is not. It is opposite effect compared to prices, and that means across all categories, but especially for the young people between 18 and 34, they found that awareness, propensity to purchase, perception, right, ownership has all increased despite the year-long winter, yeah. And starting with awareness, so they showed that overall 89% of people are now aware versus 77% 2 years ago. And again, the highest is, of course, no surprise, is 18 and 34. But again, it's still very equal results across the all age group. So awareness is definitely there. So great job on all the, YouTubers and all the people who educate about Bitcoin, right? So great job, right? On Twitter. So familiarity now. One is aware, then how familiar you are. So if you're somewhat familiar, very familiar, or own or have owned, then you're considered familiar. So again, increase 43% versus 30% overall are more familiar now with Bitcoin. Again, the highest category is in the 18 to 34, where 60% now is aware versus 42% 2 years ago. And perception. To the quote, Bitcoin is a positive innovation in fintech. How many, strongly agree? Percentage that strongly agree or somewhat agree. Again, 43% overall agree versus 34% 2 years ago, right? And it is again in the 18 to 34 age group where 59% agree versus 48%, the highest percentage, yeah. And to the quote, it is likely that most people will be using Bitcoin in the next 10 years. That means future propensity to purchase or use is again highest in the 18 to 34 age group. And propensity to purchase, that means how likely you are to purchase Bitcoin in the next 5 years. 42% of the young people 18 to 24 said they will versus 32% 2 years ago, and 35 to 44 also 35% people of those age group said they will likely to purchase in the next 5 years. Bitcoin preference rates, that means how much do you prefer Bitcoin versus government bonds? That's 21% prefer Bitcoin over government bonds now versus 18% 2 years ago. Do you prefer Bitcoin versus stocks? 17% now versus 14% 2 years ago. So 14% prefer Bitcoin to real estate versus 12% 2 years ago. 12% prefer Bitcoin to gold versus 8% 2 years ago. In summary, it basically means, right, the percentage of people who prefer Bitcoin over all other major asset class has basically increased, versus last 2 years when the prices has been increasing. That means people now are much more aware of fundamental reasons to hold Bitcoin, not just for the price. Bitcoin ownerships, overall only 9% people interviewed have ownership of Bitcoin, but again, no surprise, the highest category is in the younger group, 18 to 34 age people. 16% of them have a Bitcoin. 35 to 44, 12%, but it is really the older generation. It is only in the low single digits, right? About 2 to 4% only of the people above 45 years old have a Bitcoin. And in a way, you can think, because they may think that they don't really need it because, if it's a long-term potential coin, why do they need it? But actually, it may happen much sooner, right? That they will need it as a diversification tool. So that's all on the survey. Now, what do I think about this? I think this is really, really positive. And as I've said in all videos before, I think even if everyone's trying to fight it, even if people are not willing to embrace it now, naturally, with the advent of technology and just with age, a new generation which naturally come about, they grew up with technology, they grew up with iPad, they grew up with, digital transfer of value, digital transfer of information, digital meets up, very, very commonplace. So Bitcoin is a natural thing to embrace for them, So, and these results just support that kind of notion even more, And of course, what is also very, very encouraging is that there are proof now that with all the effort by everyone, right, out there, whether it's paid or free sources, right, to educate people about crypto, increasing awareness, the results are actually showing in number of people aware, which is very high. 90% people across age groups are aware now. Familiarities are also very high, and that is very, very good news, right? You need to be aware first, you need to be familiar before you can actually plunge in, and that is very key first step. Next, US citizens can now accept their federal or state tax refund in Bitcoin. So very, very interesting. We have already few states, including Ohio and I think Wyoming, they allow people to pay their taxes using Bitcoin, right? But now is the other way. So, as you know, if you actually file more taxes or you paid more in the previous years, the government has to refund you taxes back. And these people who use a refund company called Refundo, the Refund companies is actually tying up with BitPay to refund their customers, which are mostly unbanked, in the form of Bitcoins. What happened is that when the government give the refund back to Refundo will move their funds to BitPay, and BitPay will convert that cash to Satoshis or Bitcoin and send it to the people, right, whoever is the recipients, using the wallet address that they have, right, that they sign up using, of course, a KYC. They need to give their identity. Now, why are they doing this? Is because Refundo, most of their customers are really the poor people, mostly underbanked. So for them, the use of Bitcoin is definitely very low cost and very easy for people like this to access, because they don't even have a bank account. So for them to access, otherwise they have to open a bank account, and because for banks, normally you need a minimum deposit. You need to maintain a minimum amount in there so that you won't get charged fees, right? Because it's a fall below maintenance fee, because they don't want to serve the people who are poor, basically. But Bitcoin and crypto offers a very great alternative for this kind of people. And again, this just shows that, again, a very great use case of crypto, right? And again, you just day and day you have much more incorporation in the mainstream, the use of Bitcoin. Lastly, Microsoft under fire after hackers access Outlook emails to steal Bitcoin. So there are recent news, right, that people who are using Microsoft Outlook for their email have been complained actually that they are losing Bitcoin. Some people just lose 1 Bitcoin, which is still can be a lot depending on how much you have. But some people actually lose $25,000 worth of crypto, because it's just that hackers are able to access their email just like that, and because of that they can access to their Kraken passwords, and then they can steal their crypto. This is really, really dangerous, right? And worst case is that there have been complaints that Microsoft are trying to downplay this risk and not making it much more aware for people of their customers to actually be careful when using Outlook. Or is there any way that they can circumvent this, right? So my view is that be very, very careful if you are using Outlook. I mean, really go towards maybe something more reputable and more common like Gmail, right? The other thing is, I think they probably will need, right, this kind of problems will spark a opportunity that basically we need something like a very safe, secure kind of email Outlook provider, right? I mean, email provider, something like Brave browser under BAT, right, that gives actually users to use their platform, and if you want to view ads, you're actually being paid in BAT, or basic attention token, right? We need something like that in the email provider, where we need something very, very safe, very, very secure, right? That is not just centralized in one party. And you see in this case, because of Microsoft, they can't afford, because they're such huge player, they can afford not to tell you, and then only later people found out, right? And that's just like, you can, if they act proactively to actually tell people, then you can stop more people from falling prey, right, to this kind of scam. So I clearly will urge all the builders out there to think of this as a solution, rather than just, when there are problems, think what are the possible solutions. So with that, I hope you're having a great day, and thank you so much for your time. For all my people watching, I truly, truly appreciate it. Thank you.